Finally, the Doom games came down to a reasonable price, well the first 3 did, but in my opinion they're the only 3 that are worth getting. Trust me, I went back and tried Doom 2016 and it still sucks. I can also confidently say that the only thing Doom Eternal is going to get out of me is an eternal yawn and maybe some frothing bile. But I'm not going to waste my time talking about shit Dooms, I'm going to talk about the original Doom. The original Doom was released when I was just a nipper, but it was still occasionally talked about on the playground, when I was at an age I was old enough to understand how to play games somewhat properly. However, no one I knew had actually played it because back in the olden days no one could get copies of games we were too young to play. Our mummies, you see, wouldn't buy them for us. Obviously mums used to be exposed to the right amount of fear-mongering back then. This was to ensure that their moral compasses were gauged right. It was a simpler time, it was a better time. But this meant that Doom was just another one of those cool games I wouldn't be able to play. However, I had a slim chance of playing some of these forbidden games as I had a neighbour whose mum's moral compass didn't get enough of 90s gaming propaganda, so she didn't care about buying in games he shouldn't be playing. Problem solved, you might think. However, for the most part he didn't really care about getting any of these cool games he shouldn't be playing. Fuck knows why, he was a weird kid. So it was only on the odd rare occasion he would get something decent like Doom. But one day it happened, something new and cool was there. Doom, just sitting there on the gaming shelf, not being played. If I was a cartoon character, I would have been rubbing my dinner plate sized eyes. I was baffled as to why he wasn't playing it. But before I could get my chance, I would have to wait a painful amount of time for the selfish bastard to get bored of whatever he was playing. This wait felt like a goddamn eternity. But eventually he asked me what I wanted to play. I casually said Doom, knowing that he could say no, bear in mind the age rating. But thankfully his response was indifferent, and soon he was more concerned about getting lunch for himself. And that suited me just fine because
I can be all alone.
Before I started playing, I remember revving up the old excitement engine by watching all of the intro logos, as I always did back then. You know, just like how stupid people get excited by turning up to the cinema way before the movie starts. But apart from doing that, I can't remember much of anything about Doom. I do remember the beefy pink demons and the brown ones that threw flaming shitballs at me. But I think I can put this lack of memory down to the fact that I most likely quit playing because the game was too hard for me back then. Give me a fucking break, I was a kid. But Doom, it's many years later and I feel that I have a score to settle. As there isn't much I won't do nowadays to get a deluded sense of pride back, it feels like the perfect time to settle this score, which is way overdue. You see, Mr. Doom, I know that you've been boasting to all the other games that think they got one over on me, but you hadn't even been on my radar. It was only when I suffered through the Wolfenstein games and realised that the flashback missions were better than whatever generic borefest Wolfenstein cares to call itself, that I even cared to think about you. After this revelation I did ask myself, why the hell am I not playing the good Dooms or Wolfensteins? Armed with the courage of someone facing an old bully from school, I went and checked the store. Sadly though, Doom, you had a price tag of $3.99. This scared my purse of gold coins, so like someone actually facing a school bully, I fled to a dark corner, mainly to mumble comforting words to my coins. But I knew one day, Doom, you would be mine. After all, you had to go on sale at some point. My cheapness paid off as it always does, because all 3 Dooms went on sale at the same time. Doom 1 and 2 went down to £1.19 each, and Doom 3 went down to £2.39. I have noticed that I said at the beginning of this video that Doom Eternal would only give me one thing, with the possibility of bile, but I was wrong. I haven't given Doom Eternal credit for kindly influencing Bethesda to sell me Eternal's older, hotter sisters for less than the average household daily budget for chips. Thanks for that, Bethesda. You can keep the 2 stupid daughters that can't do anything but internet and text, I'll keep the good ones. Anyway, while the beast was downloading, I confidently thought to myself that Doom shouldn't be a problem. After all, I've got a couple of decades of gaming behind me now, and I was kinda right in thinking this, because I got on fine with all of the shooting and strafing. However, I got stuck quite a lot navigating where the hell I was supposed to go. I imagine I ran into the same problem when I was a kid. It's most likely the reason I stopped playing it. This is because some of the levels are like a maze within a maze with hidden switches and pathways. It can take some time to figure out where to go, and I admit I got a bit frustrated running around in circles without a clue. But most of the time this was my own fault for not noticing something I should have. That being said, I do think this issue can be partly blamed on the design and style of Doom, because most of the time I have no issue navigating games. However, I found that Doom shut off my ability to remember where I had been and where I was supposed to be going on the more intricate levels. I think this is due to the multitude of paths and the style, as in the textures used in the levels. Sections of levels can look very similar, and when this is on a large scale, it's easy to see why one can get lost. Yes, I know, and I'm fully aware that back in the day they had more technical limitations. Just be aware that you're most likely going to get stuck, and this can be frustrating. I stopped playing a few times because of this, as all I wanted to do was kill demons. I didn't really fancy running around in circles trying to find whatever I needed to progress. But bear in mind, this is a minor problem on a scarce amount of levels. All in all, Doom has good level design with well thought out puzzles using keys, switches and portals. The other minor gripe I have with Doom is that it has some bullshit going on with noob traps. Basically, hidden rooms filled with enemies will open after you've triggered them. Now these traps sit on a fine line with me, because at times while Doom was smiling in my face I can smile back appreciating that the old scamp got me good, but other times I simply ask Doom, and what the fuck was I supposed to do with that shit? For the most part it's not a big thing, hence why I said it's a minor gripe. I'm happy to let the more annoying ones go, as I know little old Doom can't really offer more difficulty other than throwing cheap shots and sponges at me. Yes, I admit I got some satisfaction throwing that cheap shot back, and I'd also be quite happy to throw a sponge at Doom to really settle the score, but I got the downloaded version, so I'm just going to have to stick with cheap shots for the meantime. Anyway, getting back on track, by annoying I mean the more douchey traps happen in tight spaces and sometimes in the dark, and don't think for a second that Doom is above opening doors filled with enemies from behind you either. Now you'll find within these tight spaces your strafing skills are as useful as telling the Hindu that the number of the beast is not 666. Basically the designers have purposely created these traps to disable the player's second most effective tool. This nicely leads me to the tips part of the video. I found the best way to get good at Doom, or be able to get through Doom, was treat it like a roguelike. This means you're going to be replaying levels multiple times to learn where all of the enemies are and the best way to send them to hell's hell. While you're doing this, I advise looking for hidden stuff. This is where the quick save comes in handy again, because you can search places you would normally avoid going, like on acid or lava pits. By saving the game you can safely search these places with no risk. The other benefit of using the quick save is that you can avoid dying and starting the game again after one of Doom's noob traps. But the best thing about using quick saves is that you don't have to restart the level again from the beginning with only the pistol when you die. Using the quick save is also the best way of getting the achievement for killing the cyber demon with a pistol. A general thing I do in my spare time and on Doom while I'm trying to find where the hell I'm supposed to be going is hump every wall in sight. The reason why I do it in Doom is to try and find hidden doors. I do this mainly out of desperation, but also because there are lots of hidden rooms everywhere. As a smart noodle you may have already assumed that these rooms contain useful things. So my tip here is to make sure that you dry hunt the shit out of all the walls or you might just miss out. However, just like in sex education, it doesn't hurt to have a guide. This way you will be hitting the right spots. My next tip is the pop and creep technique. Sometimes enemies are placed in blind spots on purpose to chip a bit of health off. Yes, I'm bringing up that our dirty little friend Doom likes to do this again, I'm sorry. But I'd advise either creeping around a corner or popping in and out. Only Fools Rush In is a very relevant song to remember while playing Doom. Don't just run out in the open because you'll most likely get a flaming shitball smashed the back of your head. Creeping around a single corner allows you time to aim as you're moving further out. However, if you're met with a T corridor, I would advise flipping a coin, choosing a direction, then going and popping in and out. By doing this you can see what's around the corner without lingering. You don't want to be lingering at these corridors as you will be exposing yourself to the side behind you. So just pop in and out, get a look and then move out and wait. If there is something on either side, it's highly likely that it will stupidly walk out. It's easier to kill things when they're bottlenecked. The next tip I have for you is to move in and out. Guns do more damage up close, so move closer when you have a shot and move out when you've taken it. You want to move out because this creates space, which gives you time to dodge incoming projectiles. This is most useful against the big red meatballs, the horned demons and the cyber demon. You're going to have to practice the in and out technique while strafing to avoid getting hit. When you have done this, you will see that it's an effective technique against pretty much anything that uses slow moving projectiles, which is most of the enemies in the game. Once you have the in and out and the pop and creep down, you shouldn't have any difficulties with the combat side of things. You should also remember that you can run. I only found this out in the last chapter, where some platforming needed to be done. As I have just covered why keeping distance from enemies is in your best interest, I might as well add a couple more reasons as why you should do it. Firstly, because enemies like to get in close for a big group hug. This is to stop you from moving about. It's mainly the beefy pink demons and the invisible variant that do this. But in small spaces, pretty much everything tries it, as the AI only knows to move forward and to attack. If you let them get too close, your stupid ass could get stuck in the middle of a demon blood orgy, just like my poor cookie demonstrated on the intro. But the most satisfying reason you should keep enemies at a distance is because you can maneuver enemies to hit one another. Not only do they do damage to each other, but some enemies actually turn around and try and kill whoever hit them. This is great fun to watch, an unexpected detail Doom gets a pat on the back for. Watching the AI kill each other in any game is one of my greatest joys of gaming, especially when the dumb fucks are supposed to be killing me. Another minor thing to pay attention to is health pickups. Being the cheap bastard that I am, I only use what is needed. So I leave large health pickups alone if I only need a small amount of health. I just remember where it is because I might need it later. I do this because it's highly likely that Doom will have something around the corner that will tear me a new one. I learnt this lesson early on in the game because there were times that I just picked up large health kits willy-nilly, to then later feel pretty wasteful standing there with blood coming out my face with half the level to go, knowing that I picked up a large health kit earlier on just to gain 10 health. The final and most obvious tip that I have is that you want to make use of exploding barrels. In some sections enemies can be manoeuvred next to them. Easy kills using less bullets. Oh yeah, and remember that there is a map, just keep in mind that you can move around in game while you have it up. Now I'm going to wrap this up. Is Doom worth getting? It certainly was worth the £1.19 I paid for it, but is it worth the normal asking price of $3.99? Yeah, I think it is. For those that played it back in the day, it's a cheap nostalgia kick. And for people like me that aren't cheap fucks and kinda missed it the first time round, I'd say it's worth getting. In honesty, most first person fans can get enjoyment out of Doom. It's one of those classic games that's good to have, not just for a looking back point, to see how FPS games started and how far the genre has progressed.
We come a long way, baby.
But because Doom does the fundamentals right, and when a game gets this right, it can never truly become irrelevant. Now I suppose I'm going to have to wait until the next Doom comes out to pick up Doom 64 on sale, but in the meantime Bethesda, you can always put Wolfenstein 3D on sale, you cheap fucks.